Hi, hello, and welcome to another episode of Conversations about Language Teaching. I'm Dr. Diane Neubauer. My pronouns are she, her, and I am joined again by my co-host.
Dr. Reed Riggs, pronouns are he, him.
And today we have a little bit of we're not starting exactly with a clear-cut topic. And so this will be a little bit of an organic discussion about starting the semester. That's sort of the theme.
I think that's a theme.
And kind
Yeah.
of I guess that's a clear
Yeah,
enough
that's a
theme
theme.
compared to what else we've done. So,
Sure.
but thinking about getting going in the new semester, whether you are in a second semester situation with the same students like Reed primarily is, or you're more like me, where I have brand new students for the most part. And I'm also thinking about my online Chinese classes and starting them and trying some new things. So we've got a lot to possibly discuss. Reed, do you want to start off with some thoughts about that topic, or?
I do. I think that uh, we get into routines with students, and I don't mean like planned routines, like expectations that can be good, but also there could be things where we really wish we had an opportunity to reset.
Mhm.
And sometimes you can have problematic classes or problematic behaviors where you think, I need to find something that works, and there can be a timeliness to when to do that.
Mhm.
Or just your students are kind of not used to something, and then I think that a new semester or a new year can be a good time to try
Yeah.
that. It's almost like students have their guard down, or their guard not guard down, but their expectations are a little bit more open,
A little more
a little more
malleable, something.
malleable.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, okay, well,
Yeah.
what's going on? And it's I often think even I think students and teachers have something in common where at the beginning of the year or the beginning of the semester, that's when we say, here's what the schedule is going to look like. Here's where you're going to be at this time. Here's what we're going to be doing. And that's what everyone says. Got it. Okay, thanks. And then we make our own plans or we set up our expectations. We even fill in physical calendars around that.
Mhm.
It's really hard to introduce something later. We say, hey, by the way, let's also have this weekly extra thing during lunchtime, or hey, let's also try to fit
Yeah.
this extra thing because everyone's already
Kind of in a
filled it in. They've already
mindset.
filled in. Yeah, they set
Yeah.
up what they're going to be doing. So
Yeah.
yeah, a beginning of
And
semester, beginning of year is a good time.
and there's more than just your anecdotal experience or your hunch about that, because I just was listening to a Mel Robbins podcast about a week ago, and I know I mentioned it to you, but it was an interview with a scholar, and I'll find a link to this for those interested. It was like a full hour plus conversation about the factors that help people change habits. It was kind of on the kind of is New Year's really a good time to set a resolution kind of thing? And what are the barriers and challenges to really enacting a new practice or a new habit or dropping an old habit? And one of the things really was found in psychological research was that those points in time where there's some sort of a beginning is truly a better time for people to try to do something new. And even just Monday morning can do that.
Hmm.
So if you've just had, 3 weeks of the semester already when you're listening to this and feeling like, Monday morning is once again, or the Monday class is another one of those little times, the beginning of the year, the beginning of the semester, the beginning of a new something. I think a new unit plan, if you organize
Yeah,
around units,
yeah,
you can kind of reset like now in this time, we're really going to focus more on this and less on this, and trying to recruit changes of students' attitudes and behaviors. So
yeah,
I was encouraged by that because
yeah,
it's not that you're broken if it's hard to change something mid-course. It is hard to change things mid-course for
right,
everybody.
yeah. And as a small caveat to that, it's a small exception. Uh, I do try new things a lot because I just have a long list of things I want to try, and I'm always getting new ideas. Um, when I do try something midway through, or really anytime, even at the beginning, really, I usually frame it as, hey, I want to try something with you, and we're going to see how this goes. And no promises if we'll ever do it again, but I just want to see if,
Hmm.
how this
How would
runs.
this
And then
go?
if
Yeah.
it goes really well, we might start doing it more. And
Yeah.
that's kind of how I introduce things no matter when. But I see that
Very
students,
smart. Yeah.
right, it's just
So
setting
then
up.
if students are like, wait a minute, are you going to make us do this crappy thing every day?
Well, then I'm
Like,
like, okay, fair.
hey,
Yeah.
we're just going to try it,
Yeah, I'm going to try
just give it a
something else.
shot.
I
Yeah.
think it does a few things. It invites them to have a little bit of ownership over it.
Mhm.
because it's saying I'm literally basing this.
How does
Will
it
this,
go?
if it becomes a routine, is partly is much very much based on what you do with it right now. So I'm inviting them to show if they like it or not. It's a little bit of vote,
Mhm.
vote by
Yeah.
democracy by participation. Um,
Yeah. And
but
telling them in advance that you're
yeah,
going to seek that, and then
right.
responding, showing with your later actions that you did take that into account.
Yeah.
I
And
did that too in high
at
schools.
at the end of the activity, I'll say something like, I think that went really well. I think we might try to do this again. Again, no promises. Like I'll say that to them. Again, no promises. I have to see how it fits, but it
Hmm.
seems like that went really well. And I'll ask them like, did that is that something you would want to do again? And they
Hmm.
usually tell me, yeah, we like that.
Yeah.
So that's one extra little bit. So I think that we can still proceed with our topic of the timeliness of a beginning, but also point out that there's this extra little thing you can do anytime is sort of invite
Yeah.
students to be sort of co-conspirators in new things.
Yeah. Co-conspirators is nice. It feels like, yeah,
We're plotting and planning.
spy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Make it fun.
espionage. Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But truly, make it fun. I think
Yeah.
that was another one of the points in that podcast episode.
Mm,
So along those lines of
yeah.
like, um, yeah, kind of having the reasonable expectation about how well it's going to go at the beginning, like that
Sure.
things start out more shaky. So
Well,
that I might have
as
gotten
a
that from somewhere else,
New
but
Year's resolution is probably a more useful thing for yourself. The stereotype one is some sort of fitness or exercise or health or diet. And it's probably more productive to say, I want to see if I can do this, as opposed to saying, I'm definitely going to 100% commit absolutely
hmm.
to this. And then when there's one little flaw or like a missed day, you're like, ah, never mind. Whereas if you're
Yeah,
like, let me see what I can do with this, it's okay to start small because at least you're doing it.
right, right.
Yeah.
Small starts, trying again, like, oh, that one didn't work. Let's do it a different way. Um,
Right.
yeah, like I
Yeah.
tried to build in a writing time in the past, and I've heard advice, I think good advice, where it was like, always have 15 minutes of writing every day. I'm like, that doesn't feel right to me. Like, I want time off some days of the week. I also find it impossible some days, and other times, like, but what if I really had an hour suddenly? Like, now, oh, well, now
Y-
what do I? It just doesn't
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. It's a
let's
flexible.
not
Yeah.
set such rigid rules about it and make it feel like a failure if it didn't work out one day.
Right. Right.
Like, try the thing, and if it didn't go well, that's information for you. That's
Right.
important information for you, and it's not a failure to try something that didn't work out. That's a
Yeah.
success,
I have
I
an
think.
example with my students actually on this. So my seniors, the IB started introducing a listening exam several years ago. And what I've heard from teachers is that it kind of caught teachers off guard, where they're like, I'm not sure how to teach students for this listening exam. It's a lot of fast dialogues,
Mm,
it's recordings that are just not really similar to the experience that students get during class time when hearing the teacher or working with other
yeah,
materials. It's a very specific genre of
yeah.
speech to listen to.
I've heard
It's
the AP Spanish test does that in a
yeah.
deliberate way. Like, it's got a lot of background noise even,
Oh,
and
sure.
it's like,
Yeah. Well, they're
yeah.
trying to match an idealization of how, what you would experience out in the world, maybe
Mhm.
a tougher version of it so that you're toughened up a little bit when you get out there.
Yeah.
But I've done things in the past where we've had authentic videos, we've had an actual IB listening, an old exam to listen to, and every single time I would tell students the goal of this is to listen many times to train yourself on this faster listening. And every time they'd say, "What's the grade? What's the
Mhm.
exam going to look like?" And they would find some hack around
Ugh,
to like just get the
that's
grade and
crazy.
get done with it. And I understand it's because they're busy. And so
Yeah.
for this time, I said, and I shared that story with them in class where I said, we're going to spend about 20 minutes, some classes during this semester. It's the semester right before the listening exam. They have about 4 months before it comes up. And so it's close
Mhm.
in time to it. I think there's a good timeliness to doing it now. And so we started, and one of my students, about 20 minutes in, she said, "Hey, our other class, they do like every Monday is this one skill, and they just do the one skill. I think it's a science class. And then every Wednesday is this other skill. Can we just do listening
Mhm.
every Monday?" And I thought, so I just said, what is there?
Mhm.
Is there a good reason for this? Like, it sounds like a whole
Mhm.
class of one thing is a lot. And she said, it helps me focus. I work really slowly. And so if I can just settle in on just the listening for like the whole class, this would really help me. And I asked the whole class, is this something everyone else would want? And people were they weren't against it.
Hmm.
And so this just happened yesterday. So it's something that's the beginning of a new semester. I shared with them the same story about how in the past you guys didn't do what I asked, which is to like train your ears by repeated listening. And one said, "Well, yeah, but now we have this exam coming up. We're more likely to actually do it." And I said, "Okay, well, we're
Really?
still going to use class.
Sure.
Maybe you will. Maybe this one student will."
Right.
That same student asked for a print version, a text version of it to study from. And I said, in the past, when I give that, people don't even listen to the recordings. They just focus on the text because that's the fastest way to get the assignment done. He said, yeah, but again, the test is coming up. So I know that I'll
Yeah.
need to train my ears for it. So I said, but we're going to do this as a class listening thing because I can play the audio over and over and break down and explain and kind of check and have you guys transcribe or do dictations from it. We'll talk
Yeah.
through meaning. Like I can support you, but at least you're getting the repeated listening with the attention to meaning.
Yeah.
So those sort that, but I think
Yeah. And that student could go get a transcript. I mean, if they're that motivated to,
I'll give them a
but they
transcript.
really want to,
Yeah, outside of
like
class,
there's,
sure. Yeah.
hmm
And I'm typing
yeah.
things up on the screen while we're doing. I'm doing everything I can to make meaning clear. I'm showing the characters. I'm showing the pinyin,
Hmm.
the English letters,
Transcription. Yeah.
the Roman letters.
Yeah. But as it goes, instead of as a chunk of a text that you can plug
I
into a translator or
Yeah,
something like
and
that.
actually they did this over the summer as a like a practice exam, and they pointed out several times during the lesson, "Hey, didn't isn't this the one we did over the summer?" And I say, "Yeah, but that
Mm,
wasn't listening training. This is listening training. I need you to hear it over and over and over." And then what I'll do is after we'll get through a couple segments, I'll play the whole like maybe 10 seconds of like several back and forth dialogue speakers but I'll say, okay, all right, five finger check. Let's listen again. Show me out of five fingers how much you understand this time, and I'll play a whole segment, and
hmm
I'll get 3 to 4 fingers every time, and I think this
hmm
is good. This
That's
is
getting there.
actually
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
So it's a new
Yeah.
thing. Yeah,
Judy Dubois talks about that as like narrow listening,
yeah,
where it's a and what she means by that, instead of like listening to many things on the same topic, she's thinking of like taking a chunk of a film, for example, like a couple minutes maybe of a film where it's just the listening speed is beyond what the student could do on their own with the one time through. But by like what you're doing, like breaking it down, hearing again, pausing after a phrase, like give yourself a little think time there. And like that approach to doing that, I think is really cool and really helpful. And then she's done it with films, and I've done it with films too, when I've done a big movie talk, more traditional movie talk approach with a whole film across several weeks of class time, where we do 1 or 2 days a week, we're working with the actual film. And that narrow listening thing feels so empowering at the end of it, where you're like,
mm,
the first time you hear it, maybe
mm.
it's just like noise and maybe
Nice
you could pick
noise.
out a word,
Yeah,
but by the end, if they have the vocabulary and their proficiency level is actually inclusive of most of the words in this dialogue section, they can get it, and it's really cool. So
yeah, yeah. And
yeah.
also, there's a lot of like through doing it this way and breaking it down with each step. They have a lot of context knowledge that they're listening for. Like there's a lot of extra
Yeah.
scaffolding
Right.
that's all built
Stuff
in there
that
by
there's.
focusing on the one thing.
Hmm.
But I kept being very open and saying like, when I shared the story about the IB starting this listening exam just recently and teachers saying, we're not quite sure what to do with this, that I as well do not know how to teach toward this. And this is the best I can think of right now.
Hmm.
And so one of my students said, I think this logically makes sense that we listen over and over
Hmm.
and break it
Yeah.
down and clarify meaning.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but being vulnerable, I guess they call it.
Hmm.
I think that's. I'm not thinking of the word vulnerable when I do this, but it just seems like the natural thing to say. This we're trying something new.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to
Yeah.
go
We'll
well,
see.
but also like I'm saying that so that I can open the space for them to make suggestions. I have had
Right.
students in the past say, I don't think this is going to do anything for us. And I think the problem there was I
Yeah.
wasn't setting up why we were doing it, why the process was the way it was.
Uh-huh.
So I find when I
Yeah.
when I do that
Like
more, I do get more buy-in. Yeah.
there's like a mix. Different groups, I think, need different levels of explanation.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, okay, you're going to feel like this, and I think it might do that
Right.
for you if
Yeah.
we do this.
And
If
let's
it,
see. Yeah.
yeah, and I could think of different classes I've had where some would hardly care at all to hear anything.
Sure.
And it was just for me because I like to say or something,
Yeah, right.
or or just in case, like oh, they didn't like it, but well, I could tell that there was a little bit of a learning thing that happened
Sure.
out of this.
Sure.
Okay. But yeah, different
Part
groups
of it
need
also
it.
is because I know this will be hard, and I've seen them complain in the past about how hard it is to listen to actual recordings. So it might be the nature
Mhm.
of this specific thing. A different thing I've
Yeah.
been doing is we're in a new art building. It's amazing being in a building that's just built. Like walking
Yeah.
into each space feels my brain is set up. Like I have my automatic expectations of being on my campus. So when I walk into someone else's room that's now like set up for their like space, my brain is just like, where am I? Is this what is how where this is real? Like what? There's this weird
Yeah, it
thing
feels so
that's so
new
weird.
and
And
yeah, I know what you mean.
if being
At
on
a
a new
school where there's a new
campus,
space.
being on a new campus, that's different because your brain's like, I don't know this place. Let's see what's here. But to be on my own campus, it was a lot a year ago. Now it's this big art building, art and innovation
Yeah.
center.
Well,
So my classroom, I wanted to fit the theme of the building, so I put up these 400-year-old paintings of sea anomalies, like ocean anomalies. So there's some shellfish, there's crabs, there's coral, but there's I showed you a picture, Diane. It's a
hmm
merman. There's like a green merman, a Renu, and
yeah.
so I've been figuring out what to do with it. But I'm finding the students they walk in with that same kind of wonder, like, where am I? And it's a good chance to catch them and be like, we have this totally new thing we're doing. It's become our immersion wall. And I just explained to them, this is our place to not use any English. And if you have something interesting to say and you can't think of it in Chinese, it's a good time to be quiet.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah,
writing,
you're not asking it constantly forever and ever,
no,
like but yeah,
and it's
setting
quick. Yeah,
that I
it's
think is another
short.
good way
Yeah,
to set something up. Like you've got this, here's the facility, here's the place, here's the
space.
reading corner,
Yeah,
here's the,
right. Yeah,
like when we sit in this way, we're going to talk as a group. When we sit in
right.
that way, we're going to,
Yeah,
like yeah, that's really gives
yeah.
the
It's
like you said, the mind is like we're affected by the surroundings that we're in, and
yeah.
it helps us to build that sense of what do we do here.
Yeah, that's why I think like going outside to do outdoor activities. I've been thinking like couldn't like why does my gut tell me that we can't do these same activities sitting at our desks? And I think part of it is that we do have expectations about what happens at our desks because of what we've done in the past at our desks.
Yeah.
And so a
And
lot of
not just in
questions.
your own class,
Oh
but in
no,
other classrooms where they
both,
had
both,
similar, yeah.
both. I think yeah, based on yeah our direct experience with me at in front of them at their desks, but also school expectations. And one thing I thought of recently is that at their desks, constant questions about when is this due? How is this grade based? What should I do to
Mhm.
study? And it's always sort of new assignments with like, if I do this, will I get this grade? And I don't mess around in the target language with that because I need that to be done. We need to move on. And I don't have, they don't
Yeah,
have the
that's not your
language
focus.
level, yeah, to like negotiate meaning with me over these like subtle differences in how grading is going to work.
Yeah.
And so I just try to get through it, but there's a lot of it. When we're
Mm.
outdoors playing our games, none of that comes up because it's not graded.
Yeah,
And
that
because
too.
they're
Yeah.
enjoying it, and because I've explained it, this is immersion time.
hmm
It's time to just be 100%. Do not use any English. If you got to be quiet, just be quiet. You'll
hmm
be hearing me a lot. That's a big goal of it is to hear me a lot. And when you want to say something, go ahead. And if
hmm
you need to point and gesture, do that. And then those routines have now been established. And so now when we go outside, they know what to do. If there's something new, I might take a little time out and explain it in English. A lot of it's meant to be negotiated in the target language. There's supposed to be misunderstandings about, do I stand here? Do I stand there? I want to stand there. Can we do this? It's like there's a lot of pointing and
hmm
getting through it. But yeah, this immersion wall with old paintings, and they write commentary on each other's commentary on these paintings.
Yeah, very cool.
It's fun, yeah. So that's
Yeah,
a
like a
similar
gallery
thing.
walk,
The
but kind
gallery
of as
walk,
a
yeah,
routine that's a little more frequent than just a
yeah.
one time.
But based on that space, and so that's why I think another addition to our topic right now, which is setting up new routines, new habits. Space can be a big
hmm
factor, like where
Yep.
you're setting it up. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. To just build on that idea of like the physical setup of the room that when I taught, sometimes at the middle school level, I did a deskless classroom, but I always had that at the high school that I taught at the last 3 years. I was in K to 12 teaching. And it was surprising to me by that point in time how much people, not just my own students, but other students and other like faculty, like, oh, I came to see the deskless room. Like,
That's cool.
is it
Yeah.
really that big of a deal? Like in some cases, our room was just so small. The school gave me a very small room in some places. We couldn't have had desks in there very effectively. But it also was my intention and the flexibility of moving those chairs into different configurations or getting them totally out of the space and playing a game that was more active, or they could group up or pair up. I had tables at the back of the room. So like there were different like routine uses of the way that the room was set up. But I think that fact that they walked into a classroom where it didn't look like every other classroom did
Yeah.
help them think
Yeah.
differently about what the goal was in
Yeah.
this classroom. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
about,
Yeah.
being together and understanding language and using language to communicate and do things together. And
That's
yeah.
great. Yeah. Did you have some
Well,
things about your college class you're teaching?
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So I have 4 classes. One is online. I'm doing some new things for that. I'll save that maybe. And then I have 3 classes that I've taught in the past. It's on building the learning community. These are elementary education majors. And so they're not exclusively language teachers, but I like to tell them everybody is a language teacher because yes, they are. And especially with little
Oh yeah.
kids,
Oh yeah.
they are really directly learning a lot of language and expanding their vocabulary very rapidly in school. So the one of the things that I'm doing with them that's kind of I feel like I get it. And this is something I didn't do when I was teaching K to 12, but I've heard of people doing there very successfully and for good reasons. I'm thinking of Cecile Lene and Annabelle Williamson
Williamson.
does this with like setting up a like a class contract kind of idea.
Mm.
Like how should our class look for you to be successful in learning X language? Or how should our class look so that everybody feels a sense of belonging and we're really productive, or like whatever you want to set it up as.
Yeah.
And this was built into the course when I received it from someone who had been teaching it. And it was like, oh, I'm going to try the thing. And the first time or two, I was like, okay, I feel okay about it, but now I can talk about it now that I've done it 3 times.
Mm.
And I really like it, and I could see it being very valuable. And I think it could even be one of those resets at the semester things, where if things were not going really the way that you would like, this we talked about it afterwards too. Like we did it as the students being students, writing about expectations for each other as students in the course, and for me as the instructor of the course. And I like that because a lot of them overlap, right?
Yeah.
Like respect, listen to each other, communicate your message clearly. But then they had a few for me, like,
Mm.
don't change those due dates. If you're going to do that, like never before, maybe after the original due date, but
Sure.
like stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
it was really helpful. And I could
Mm.
say like, yeah, okay, you can hold me to that. That's good. That's fair.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I
That's great.
liked the back and forth there. And then we had a written list. And then afterwards we talked about it as future teachers, these are. How would you do this with second graders?
Yeah.
How would you do this with fifth graders? Could you do this with kindergartners?
Yeah.
In what way? What would you do if your school had a set of expectations that everybody was supposed to post on the wall?
Yeah.
Well, you could still talk about like, how does this look in our classroom?
Hmm.
Like when we have our subject matter and we're doing this, what is it going to look like when it says at our school, be respectful of others and of the environment? Like,
Yeah.
oh, that means like, oh, you want to listen to your classmate, you want to wait your turn, you want to offer supportive feedback instead
Yeah.
of criticism that's negative and harsh.
Yeah.
Like that, like talking through those details could be really good. So I now am hooked. And I don't think I'm going to do it with my online classes, but I think if I have another, well, we'll see how
It
much
could be
time I have in a language
interesting.
lab setting. I might
It
do
could
it.
be interesting to see student perceptions in an online setting because they might have, everyone now has experience with doing stuff online, Zoom meetings, probably online
Hmm.
classes. And it might be interesting if they're like, oh, do this or that, like, wait for the person to finish speaking because of delays and signal or
Hmm.
keep your camera on.
Yeah.
There could be some
Use
online
your
specific things.
mute button as a
Yeah.
key to show if you want to take a turn next
You
and
actually
speak on
don't,
mic.
I've just to find out what other people think about the semiotic resources available on Zoom,
The
like
meaning making
the meaning
resources.
making resources. So like, use the hand raising thing. I don't know if anyone cares
Mhm.
about that, but it'd be interesting to find out if anyone cares about it, or if no one mentions
Mhm.
it, that's interesting too.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know how other people think about the stuff on Zoom.
Yeah.
The poster, our we went to a parents' night at our daughter's preschool, 3-year-old program, and the teacher said she showed the poster. She went through each student. They all worked together at the beginning. In the classroom, I want to feel,
Ah.
and then each student had their name and then a feeling. I want to feel calm. I want to feel respected. The teacher would just, teach those words. And so she gave us each a piece of poster to take home. And she said, your child would be familiar with this. So I suggest making one at home. So we did it as an activity and it's up on our wall. This is Annie's wall over there. My mic's kind of blocking it, but
Yeah, it's got a lot of like child art
a lot of
up
child
on the
art.
wall
Annie's
behind
put
the
all those
couch.
up. We did not put any of these up. Annie has gone up there to put each thing
Yeah.
up herself. But it says here at home, I want to feel, let's see, it said Annie, quiet, safe, respected, and calm. Daddy, calm, happy, respected, available. Mommy, loved, productive, relaxed. And so anytime there's like some tantrum or some sort of disrespect going on, we can pick
Mm-hmm.
Annie and we walk up to it and point to it and say,
Mm-hmm.
Annie, at home, I want to feel safe. At home, I want to feel calm. And she's very responsive to it because they refer to that poster a lot in class. And I don't know if they always point to the physical poster. They might at the start, but I know that they use the language of that poster frequently,
Yeah,
daily. Yeah.
and I think that gets also at the issue we talked about in my classes, where it's buy-in.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
the students own it because they help decide it.
Right.
Like it's not just imposed on them.
Right. Remember
And
you
of
said in this
course,
class, yeah, we'd like to be using the target language in our language
yeah,
classroom. Like, do we still want that? You can even like check with them. Like, is that something you still
yeah,
want? Like, okay, should we change the poster? Okay, well
mhm,
let's do it then. Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, there's another thing that I will be doing new that, or at least sort of new, a little bit new. And this is with my online Chinese classes. So I teach Chinese just once every other week to three different groups, and we'll be starting again this week. And this is especially in the beginning class, and maybe in the advanced beginning a little bit too. They're very mixed now. So like just in the nature of my little extracurricular classes, I don't have that much time and I can't do lots of sections of different groups, but I have some total beginners and I have some that are like they're not ready for the way that the advanced beginning class feels, but they're not total beginners anymore. They do have some basics. And I'm trying to combine them this time in a more deliberate way than I've done before. Like I'm going to let them know for sure. Like I've mentioned it before, like sometimes somebody had, Chinese 15 years ago and they wanted to start it up again. So they were in the beginning group, but they had a little bit that would come back to mind. But this is a little more deliberate where I'm going to borrow in from multilingual education principles about that level of range of differentiation. So what I mean is a student whose home language is different than English, but they're in an English speaking classroom in the US. That's primarily what I mean by that context. And yet they're there with classmates who are fluent English speakers. And so how do you manage so that that total beginner gets what they need, can follow what's going on, can participate and be active, but you can still give language and task differentiation to those who have a little bit more. And I think I'm going to introduce the idea, like so often in a world language classroom, the expectation is word goes out of teacher or out of a book or a textbook or something, and it must reproduce in the speech of the student immediately. And like that's not second language acquisition friendly. That's not how people learn anything, really, I think. But helping to clarify that some of you are total beginners, and I expect that you might feel a little more quiet. You might have some head nods. You might hear some words more than you feel ready to say at all. And that's totally appropriate. Here's my goal for you that you can kind of follow the plot and participate at times. And then there's some of you here who have a little bit more background in Chinese, a little bit more ability. And so as we're doing things, you might be able to call on some of the language you already have and use that. I'll try to help facilitate those beginners to understand what you said. But beginners, don't worry about like getting each and every word or being able to reproduce it. Don't think that you're held to the same standard. It's like you're at your place. Everybody's at their own place, and we're going to do something together. But we'll see how it goes. I have to kind of figure out by Thursday night. Oh,
Yeah.
is that tonight? Wait a minute. No, it's today's Tuesday.
Today's
Okay.
Tuesday.
I've got 2 more days. 2 more days.
On the release of
So
this episode,
yeah,
yes, it is
yeah,
tonight on the release of this episode.
true, true.
Um,
So but I am looking forward to it because I think that you can perhaps do something like that if the expectation is clear enough,
yeah,
if people feel safe to kind of feel loose, if you're showing through your grading practices and your assessment that you're
sure.
not expecting the total beginner to be at the place of the one
Yeah,
who has 30 hours of class time already.
yeah.
Like
On
yeah,
that,
so
on
homeroom
yeah,
teachers can do that. Like the thing I've seen an ESL teacher do where it was designed exactly for this situation where there was total beginners, some with a little experience, some who were fluent English speakers, and they were doing like using a picture. It was like a very specialized kind of picture talk with some annotation in text on the picture so that those, like they kind of self-differentiated, but everybody could follow what was going on because there was this very clear visual and the teacher was pointing carefully and holding their hand over the parts as they're talking about things. And so, yeah, the total beginner wasn't going to get each and every word clearly necessarily, but they were getting words clearly enough to retain some language from that session.
mhm,
And so were the ones who were a little more advanced.
yeah,
And how they participated would look a little different. So,
sure. But they were able to participate, and
yeah, shout out to Kevin if he's listening to this episode, because
okay,
that's who I saw this from.
awesome,
It was called PWIM. I'll try to link it.
cool.
And I can't remember pictures, something, something,
Pictures
interactive,
with,
something.
yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Interactive
Yeah.
media.
It was like,
Something.
at first I thought, oh, this is picture talk, like a world language
Mm,
teacher might think of picture talk. This was a little bit of a more specific
yeah.
content area focused thing,
Was the
like
teacher calling out things and the students would go up and write what the teacher called out, like label it?
I want to say in this case, they didn't add labels, but you could, like in a
Mm.
GLAD,
Right,
like
glad is what I
that
was
kind of
thinking.
thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, where they might even give the students pieces of paper that have some vocabulary and they come up at times when
Match it
it
up on
starts
the,
to come up.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That would be another kind of an approach that I think could work. Yeah.
Something's on that, on in that line. So I've seen enough times over the years where I'll have some excellent student who volunteers to go first. And this is often for poster presentations, or we're doing micro presentations where we'll have a smattering of pictures representing topics we've talked about before. And I'll have students go up and they can choose whichever one they want. And they just give a quick little, like, 1 to 3 sentence presentation. I ask 1 or 2 questions and they go sit down. And then another student comes up, and then the first student is any student who's gone up is asked to come up again to give the exact same presentation again, and then come and sit down. And I don't even necessarily ask questions after that one. It's just micro. It's like, let's just get up popping, come up, say whatever you want, sit back down. Everyone gets to see the questions I ask. This is all very much directly in preparation for the internal examination we do. It's a oral exam senior year. But the more we can do these things over the years, the more we can build up these sorts of interactional,
And feel
communicative,
comfortable. Yeah.
improvisational comfort. It's also the ability to navigate meaning, like to navigate what could I say next about this topic, and what language can I muster up right now to be able to talk about that thing, which is a whole kind of
Hmm.
navigating is the best word I can think of for that. It's like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's it's not just about producing sentences. It's about using language to talk about a topic, but checking,
Yeah.
can I think of these words right now that I need, and can I remember the information about the topic to talk about it? So doing it quick little bits. But anyways, in all of these situations, is usually some really motivated, eager student who has a lot of skills, who gets up there first, and other students will ask, do I need to do that? And like, I have to do all that? And I'll say, no, this not at that level. And so what often ends up happening is there are some students who just sit out. They just like won't do it because they're like, oh, I'm not ready yet. Give me another day. And so what I've done is I've put together descriptors of different kinds of performances I've seen over the years. And the goal is to be able to identify what's in the middle because I want students feeling comfortable about what's in the middle because we never talk about what the middle can look like. And so I think it's okay to not praise the lowest possible performances. Like if a student, I've had students walk up and just go, "Yeah, I don't have anything," or like,
Mhm.
I don't know, I don't have anything to say here." And so I'm not going to say, "Hey, good job. At least you stood up in front of us."
Mhm.
No, I think there's a cutoff to being, praising. I
Yeah,
think
you didn't yet
it's okay
meet.
to chastise
Understand.
and tell people like, "Hey, step up your game. Like this, you need to do a little bit."
Yeah, I think
If
you can do more than that.
Yeah, I
So,
think so. And then I'll tell them like, make some flashcards, make a couple of memorized phrases to just get something. Like come up here and tell me
mhm.
something about this topic. Um, and usually, so the point is that like then when they start to when I do sit down with a student and say, you know what, here's a couple things you could say on this, then they go, oh yeah, I can say that. It's like the
Mhm.
problem is they were
It's
holding
like,
themselves to the super high standard and being like, oh, I can't do all this
yeah,
stuff, so I don't know what to do.
right.
So I've just been sort of pointing out. Now, students were saying, "Oh, do I have to do these different things?" And I'm saying, "No, I'm summarizing. I'm describing what I've seen students do at the lowest levels, at the sort of intermediate kinds of performances, and at the highest kinds of performances." And what I'm really saying is, you don't need to hold yourself to these super high standards. You're welcome to, and the space is open for you to. And I'm glad that we have students who have the space to do these over and above types of presentations and dialogues with me. Not dialogues, but question answer Q&A, I guess. But here are what some mid-level performances can look like that are quite good and get good grades.
Mhm. Hmm.
And
Yeah, have
so,
the
yeah,
expectations match what your students actually can do.
what they can
Like
do, and then
if they're on.
yeah, and then I have some students that'll say, hey, if I just do this, can I get a passing grade? And I'm like, well, I should probably describe what the lowest passing grade or a medium passing grade can look like. And so that's something that I just put together at the end of last semester, and I presented it this semester. And students had questions. They're like, well, so what we did last semester, does that count still as like the highest grade? And I'm like, yeah, look at the descriptions. It's doing what a rubric does, but it's
Hmm.
almost more like a rubric for like other things. It's like, how should your general performance yes, it's on graded things, but I also put in things like students who I've seen don't study at all and then don't prepare at all. This is what their performance looks like. Students
Hmm.
who do a basic amount of studying and then do a basic amount of preparation. This is kind of what their performance looks like. So I don't, I would like to turn it into some kind of rubric, but for now it's like, just know that like you don't have to always aim for what the rubric is describing as like the best performance.
Yeah, yeah. And there's times of life where you need to step back and focus on other stuff too,
That's right.
and just get
Absolutely.
by in your
Yep.
class. Yeah,
Yep. Yep.
yeah. Well, it looks
Um,
like, did you have anything else that is we're
about
getting
trying
close
new
to time?
things, I think that that's like the main point. Let's summarize real quick. New things can happen anytime, but they're often easiest when there's already some natural sense of
Hmm.
something new. I suppose you could have a feeling of restart if you rearrange your classroom because when students walk in, they'll say, "Well, my students have commented like, oh, I've never seen the desks like this before."
Yeah.
When we were moving out last semester, we were pushing things around because we had to box things up, and desks ended up in different configurations. And students kept walking in, even the study hall students that weren't in my class but using our room. They go, "Whoa, I've never seen the desk like this before." So that could be a way to reset, like mid-semester.
Oh,
But yeah, coming back from vacation is a good time,
hmm.
and I think a lot of it has to do with also verbalizing expectations. Like here's what the aim of trying this new thing is, and inviting students to participate in kind of what the goals should be and
Yeah.
speak up if they have thoughts on it.
Hmm. Yep.
Okay. Well, thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah.
Happy
Thanks. Good to see you.
2026. Yep. Okay.
Right. Yep.
All right. Well, I've
Bye-bye.
been Reed
Oh,
Riggs.
yeah. Yep. I'm Diane Neubauer. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.